Welcome to Lisbon. Hi, I am Manini Ramdas. Welcome back to my channel. I recently spent a few days exploring this colorful hilly cities full of history, viewpoints and incredible food. And in this vlog, I'm taking you along with me. From wandering through Alfama's streets to sunset viewpoints and day trips beyond the city, here's how I spent my time discovering Lisbon. So come along. I started the morning wandering through Alfama, Lisbon's oldest neighborhood. Its narrow cobbled streets, colorful tiled houses, and the laid-back vibe made me slow down and just soak in the atmosphere. As I wandered uphill, I passed by São Jorge Castle, perched high above the city. I didn't go inside this time, but even from outside, the rooftop and the Tagus River stretched out beautifully below. On the way downhill, I stopped at Lisbon's cathedral, one of the city's oldest landmarks. It felt quiet and grounding inside, a nice contrast to the bustling streets outside. I continued walking until the city suddenly opened up into Praça de Comércio, right along the river. By afternoon, I headed to São Pedro de Alcântara, a miradouro which offered a perfect panoramic view of the city with castle on one side and rooftops rolling down towards the river. Was enjoying all of this with a glass of local ginginia. Later, I stopped by Lisbon's central station. Its ornate architecture and tile details make it feel more like a monument than a transport hub, quietly capturing city's character. In the evening, I headed to Jam Club for dinner. The live music, cozy atmosphere and food made it a highlight. I tried the bacalhau, Portugal's famous salted cod, and ended the day just wandering around the streets. Day 2 started with an early ride out of Lisbon towards Sintra, a town that feels completely different from the city. It's more greener, cooler and almost fairy tale-like. I arrived in Sintra in the morning and took the local bus that loops up the hill towards the main palaces. I had already booked my ticket and the time slot for Sintra's National Palace in advance, which made things much easier because it gets busy quickly. Once I reached the palace, these iconic twin chimneys were even more striking in person. They rise right out of the building and make it instantly recognizable. Inside, the architecture is a mix of styles with strong Moorish influences in the arch tiles and geometric details. Many of these rooms are covered in traditional azulejos and each space feels completely different from the last. Some grand and ornate, some quieter and more intimate. What I liked most was how the palace, despite having so many influences, still feels connected and comes together as a beautiful fairy tale-like castle. After exploring the interiors, I spent some time wandering through the surrounding gardens and courtyards. It was a relaxed, unhurried visit, and by early afternoon I felt like I'd seen everything at a comfortable pace. Spending about half a day here felt just right before heading back into town. After a morning of walking through town, I stopped for lunch at this place. It's a small, cozy place that was perfect for a relaxed break before heading to the coast. For the second half of the day, I took a bus from Sintra to Cabo de Roca, which is about 40-45 minutes away. The ride itself was very scenic, winding through hills and eventually opening up to the ocean. Cabo de Roca is the westernmost point of mainland Europe, and standing there really feels like being at the edge of the continent. The cliffs are dramatic, the wind is intense, and the Atlantic stretches endlessly in front of you. I stayed for a while, just taking it all in before catching the bus back. By the time I returned to Lisbon that evening, it felt like I'd packed a full day, places, mountains, and ocean all within an hour of the city. About Belém. Day 3 was all about Belém, one of Lisbon's most historic and expansive areas. I started by wandering along the waterfront, spotting the historic monument celebrating Portugal's explorers, stretching out towards the river. Standing there, it really hits you how much history is tied to this city. Next, I made my way to this monastery, which is massive and takes a bit of time to truly appreciate. Half of it is a museum filled with maritime artifacts, models of ships, and treasures from Portugal's ages of discoveries. The main part of the church itself, the Santa Maria de Belém church, with its soaring arches and intricate manualine details. Walking through both spaces gave me a sense of how intertwined religion and explorations were in Portuguese history. Around the monastery, I strolled through these wide gardens that felt peaceful despite the crowds, perfect for pausing and taking in the grand architecture. Of course, I couldn't leave Belém without trying pastel de nata, as this dessert originates from here. And this is the exact place where it originated. There were fresh pastel de natas coming straight out of the ovens, crisp from the outside, creamy on the inside, a little moment of bliss before heading back towards the city. Late afternoon, I returned to central Lisbon and spent my evening wandering, taking in familiar streets and enjoying the golden light. Belém had been full of history, grand buildings and quiet moments in the garden, one of those days that make you fall a little deeper for the city. Day 4, which was also our last day, was the most relaxed day in Lisbon. A perfect way to slow down after a few busy days of exploring. I started by hopping on the city's famous Tram 28, letting it rattle and twist up steep hills while I watched the city wake up around me. There's something about riding that tram that makes Lisbon feel alive. Colorful buildings, styled facades, and winding streets passing by in a slow, mesmerizing rhythm. Later, I spent the time strolling through some of my favorite neighborhoods again, stopping at another miradouro just in time for sunset. Watching the sky turn golden over the Tagus was one of those quiet moments I wish I could freeze. By late afternoon, I treated myself to a ginginia shot. For a glimpse of the city from above, the Santa Justa elevator is a great spot. Early or late is best to avoid crowds. But I decided to avoid the queue altogether and headed to a rooftop restaurant nearby instead. I had wine, snacks and dinner with sun setting in the background. Great food, laughter, and a cozy, lively atmosphere that made it the ideal way to close my time in Lisbon. And just like that, my time in Lisbon came to an end. 4 days of winding streets, hilltop views, historic places, pastel de natas, golden sunsets that I'll never forget. If you enjoyed this vlog, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which Lisbon spot is your bucket list. See you in the next one.